Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a nice little ambiance.
Mm. Yes.
Yeah, we could break that up. That's fine.
Yes.
All right. Well, here we go. Chapter 1. When you represent yourself, don't bring a mirror. There are bad ideas. There are catastrophically bad ideas. And then there's deciding your husband should represent you in a court while you LARP as a bar whistleblower from your couch in a bathrobe that hasn't seen soap since the Bush administration.
I know, that was pretty good, wasn't it?
That's a good one. Cheeto stains, bonbon stains.
Lipstick stains.
Yeah, right. She wasn't alone, of course. In the curious pairing of ego and enabling, her husband, a licensed attorney in his own right, had decided he would represent them both in court. Himself and her. The defendant and the fallen former attorney, who now communicated mostly in half-truths and text message novels to YouTubers. Together, they formed a legal team that might have been powerful enough in another universe. Perhaps one where civil procedure is crowdsourced and depositions are done via live stream over frozen soup. On the floor, 3 empty Red Bull cans, a chewed pen, and the printed remains of a lawsuit so delusional, even the paper looks ashamed. Center stage, Lipschitz, formerly an attorney, now a self-appointed martyr on a mission to save the world from facts, consequences, and, most of all, Jeremy Hales. She used to post. Boy, did she post. Facebook diatribes, YouTube clips, Facebook sock puppet accounts, Instagram stories with legal takes that made 4chan blush. But now, gone. All of it. Wiped. Vanished into the same ether where her credibility lives. No explanation. No warning. Just digital vapor trails and the distant whimper of her narrative gasping for breath. Still, she's not silent. Oh no. She's just outsourced her delusion. Enter Fleesa, the gap-toothed gatekeeper of garage gossip and one-woman disinformation hub for the anti-what-the-hells ecosystem.
What is your favorite color? What is the speed velocity of a swallow?
All cockeyed and drooling, with her little cane and broken jibs. Lipschitz doesn't post anymore. She passes a note like it's homeroom, and Fleesa, ever the loyal ventriloquist dummy with a vape pen, repeats them verbatim, just enough cigarette haze to obscure the source. Well, to the outside world, this might have seemed like a bold choice, but the reality was simpler and sadder. No one else would tell her story. Not after the way the first lawsuit went, not after the filings, not after the dismissal, and certainly not after it became clear that the litigation strategy wasn't to win on the merits, but to cry harassment. And anytime someone asked to see the evidence. According to sources close to the situation.
No, you got it wrong. The voice isn't right.
Yeah, okay. According to sources close to the situation. Fleesa breathes into a barely functional Logitech mic. Bar complaints. Where the fuck did that one come from? Bar complaints have been filed. Oh, they're real. And Michael's helping. He's an attorney, you know. So it's serial. Yes, Michael, the husband, MFer, by the by. The only man alive who could manage to look smug while accidentally stapling emotion to his forehead. A man so competent, he thought it was legally sound to represent himself and his wife, while also playing both victim and lawyer on the public record. He speaks at hearings like he's auditioning for a reboot of The Practice, but keeps getting out-argued by documents he himself submitted. Keep aiming high and somehow shooting yourself in the foot. It was his idea, allegedly, to double down on strategy by filing Florida bar complaints against plaintiff's counsel. Because when you're boxed in by sworn statements, evidence, and the undeniable stink of your own frivolous lawsuit, the obvious move is to call the ethics police on the guy beating you in court. Here's the twist. No one knows if the complaints were actually filed. Well, that's the genius of Lipschit's scheme. She mastered the art of narrative without paperwork. She tells Fleesa, "It's been filed." Fleesa tells the internet, "It's official." And suddenly, the garage streamers are celebrating a fantasy like it's a court order. Meanwhile, no one sees... Wait a minute. Meanwhile, no one's seen a timestamp. No complaint number exists. And the bar is sitting somewhere in Tallahassee wondering why a gaggle of unwashed YouTubers keeps referencing documents they've never received. Because long before the courtroom, long before the filings, long before the inevitable motions to dismiss, there was a simpler mission. Silence the people talking. Lipschit's lawsuit, in all its fragile glory, was not born out of a desire to correct the record. It was born out of fury that anyone had dared to speak at all. She didn't just sue for defamation. She sued for breathing. And that's rich, coming from someone that I assume has to remind themselves to take a breath every 35 seconds. And that's a talent that not everyone has. Funyuns! For sharing documents already in the public domain. The complaint reads less like a statement of claims and more like a personal burn book, organized perceived betrayals and time-stamped live streams. No, she tried to spin it into something noble, something righteous, a stand for truth, if you will. A mother's protection, a mother's warning. And with enemies like that, who needs a mother? But buried beneath the lofty claims of reputational harm were the real goals. Shut down the coverage, discredit the critics, and above all, reframe herself not as a liability in someone else's case, but as the victim of it. And when that didn't work, when the world didn't flinch, and the pressure started to mount, and the discovery requests grew closer, she dropped the whole thing, quietly, strategically, merely to dox. Not because her claims were resolved, but because they were rotting. No, she didn't want answers. She wanted silence. And when she couldn't get it through courts, she turned to the only place where silence doesn't matter, and proof is optional. YouTube. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Back in court, Michael still had to keep the act going, still had to file and argue and pretend that every motion to be dismissed was just a technical delay. He submitted filings with the zeal of a man who truly believed that if you string together enough indignation and citations from unrelated cases, well, eventually someone will believe you. And Lipschitz, well, she stayed in the shadows, like the nasty, bedraggled, makeup-smeared vampire she is. Gone were the daily posts, the threads, the not-so-subtle dog whistles. Her accounts were deleted. Her history vanished. Her claims dissolved like sugar in warm tea. But that doesn't matter to Lipschitz. To her, facts are for the small-minded. What matters is the story, the arc, the victimhood cosplay. Well, she can't admit she filed a lawsuit based on fiction and had to dismiss it before the hearing even started.
No.
Whoa, no. She can't admit Randy Shaka keeps handing her and her husband his procedural lunch in every filing. So instead, she becomes the Shadow. And only the Shadow knows. Whispering accusations, feeding Fleesa half-truths and whole lies. And like everything else she shovels into her gaping maw, just gobbles it down. And scrubbing her presence from the internet like she's in witness protection. The bar complaint? Maybe real. Maybe not. What's real is the internet, or the intent. The internet. I was going to say, wait a minute, that's fucked up, dude. Yeah. The internet, yeah. What's real is the intent, not justice, not ethics, revenge. Delivered secondhand, wrapped in paranoia, and tossed to the internet like a bag of shit or expired rice. And the husband, still pretending this is all going according to plan. Still signing pleadings that contradict themselves in consecutive paragraphs. Still grinning like a man who just discovered Adobe Acrobat but hasn't figured out how to save. Or a little boy playing with this thingy when he just figures out it gets hard. They wanted to file complaints to intimidate. What they filed instead was a new chapter in the growing anthology of how not to practice law while under the impression that live streams equal legitimacy.
Chapter 2. The fleas go public with fiction. Or when lawsuits fail, just live streams the lies. Some people appeal after their lawsuits fails. Others regroup, re-strategize, consult real attorneys, and prepare to come back with stronger claims in a tighter case. When news broke that bar complaints had been filed, the legal world did not gasp. The Florida bar didn't issue a press release. The court didn't slam its gavel in reverence. The public didn't chant, "Lipschitz, Lipschitz, Lipschitz." No, the only ones who reacted like it was a seismic event were the fleas, a crew of live streaming legal illiterates who treat gossip as gospel and microphones as megaphones for their own insecurities. And then there's Lipschitz, who, upon voluntarily dismissing her flimsy suit with all the grace of a buffet fight at a Golden Corral, decided to pursue a much nobler, more dignified path. Whispering unverified nonsense into the ears of people who couldn't define jurisdiction if you tattooed it on their forearms. Do you like that, Golden Corral?
Yeah. The buffet brawl.
They took the claim. Lipschitz
This one
filed a
makes the
complaint.
OK Corral look like a child's walk. Coming to a theater near you.
Oh, so close. They took the claim. Lipschitz filed a complaint and sprinted like it was the last blunt at a middle school sleepover. Within hours, the internet was ablaze with celebratory screeching. "She did it! Gar complaint incoming! That liar's dead!" The streams that followed weren't just reactions, they were rituals. Oh, they were lit with that soft glow of bug-filled lights and desperation. A new figure emerged. Not new, really. She'd been there all along, lurking in her garage like a creature summoned by bad lighting and expired nicotine. Fleesa appeared like a prophet in front of a microphone duct taped to a dirty ashtray. She squinted at the screen, exhaled plumes of mentholated hubris, and declared with breathless authority, "The Florida bar's involved now. This is serious, y'all. These are just live stream wars. This is legal accountability." Legal accountability, according to fleas, is a magical event that occurs when one of their own says something serious sounding into a microphone. No evidence required, no public record, just vibes, cigarette ash, and secondhand screenshots. She streams nightly from the Villages, Florida, a place known more for its loofah-coated golf cart orgies and HOA infighting than constitutional law. Her streams are faceless, breathy, and built around the same three ingredients: unfiltered cigarettes, processed snacks, and blind loyalty to anyone willing to let her break the story without asking for proof. Flea's signature style isn't subtle. You hear her before you even figure out what the topic is. There's always a rustling bag, a shallow cough, and the sound of some poor headset.
Like a cow chewing cud. If you hear a cow chewing cud, it's probably Fleesa.
And the sound of some poor headset fighting for its life against the humidity and whatever she just inhaled. She speaks in broken sentences with chewed syllables, reading aloud screenshots like she's narrating the book of Revelation with extra butter and a side of grievance. According to what I was told, Lips filed the bar complaint. Michael helped draft it. It's been sent to the bar. We got him now, y'all. Chat loses its collective mind. She's lots of life, Mom. This is what accountability looks like. Never mind, no one has seen the complaint. No one has confirmed it. There's no timestamp, no scan, no record. Just the word of a woman who once claimed to have exclusive intel from a voicemail she recorded by holding her phone up to the speaker and coughing into it mid-sentence. Well, Fleesa doesn't question it. She doesn't have to. Her job isn't journalism, it's delivery. She is Lipshit's last working speaker system, and tonight's sermon is vengeance. And what exactly is she reading aloud? Nothing more than the corpse of Lipshit's original lawsuit, now reheated and rebranded as an ethics complaint. Same accusations, same imagined slights, only this time, instead of aiming at its critics online, she's gunning for opposing counsel. The same one who dismantled her in court and walked away with procedural win and a stack of receipts. Of course, you won't hear that part in Fleesa's stream. What you'll hear is the revisionist myth that this was never about silencing speech or controlling the narrative. No. It's about protecting her children, because that's the new headline, crafted not for the court, but for the comment section. They threatened her and her kids. That's why she had to act. Except no one did. No one threatened Lipshits. No one targeted her children. No one even cared where she lived until she started filing lawsuits and tagging people in every post like it was her side hustle. But now suddenly, this is the tale. She wasn't trying to chill speech or punish dissent. She was fighting for her family. The bar complaint, we're told, is the only option she had left, not because the court rejected her claims, not because the lawsuit fell apart, not because the facts just didn't line up, but because she had to protect her babies from the mean live streamers. It's fiction, brazen fiction, but it's being swallowed whole by an audience trained to never read past the caption.
The voices are my babies.
And in the garage lit only by a dim light and a dim glow of bad decisions, Fleesa plows forward.
This ain't over. Y'all think they're just winning just because we won that suit? Nah, this is chest, and Lipshits just made her move.
No, she didn't. She replayed a losing move and gave it a new label. And that's not chess, that's Connect 4 with missing pieces and a bag of Cheetos stuck to the board. But Fleesa can't tell the difference to them. The bar is a courtroom, the live stream is a deposition, the text message from Lipshits is gospel, and the only thing more satisfying than making things up is getting away with it in front of an audience that won't ask questions. What they don't realize is every single stream is evidence, every smug laugh, every "we got him," every repurposed lie. It's all time-stamped, archived, circling back towards the docket, though they thought they escaped. It's because while Fleesa babbles about crystals and hero moms and whispered conspiracies, somewhere a real attorney is drafting a real response. Not to what was said in court, but to what's being performed online in its place. And just like that, what began as a dismissed lawsuit has now metastasized into a secondhand ethics tantrum. Delivered anonymously, broadcast relentlessly, and destined to implode on impact. But here's one problem. When you broadcast retaliatory bar complaint mid-litigation and make it part of your show, you're not just a clown. You're a clown confessing to motive. Because now the world sees the playbook. Not justice, not ethics, not even concern, just rage and narrative control. They don't really care if it's real. They care if it trends. Fleas had the gall to suggest the complaint would strip opposing counsel of their license. Yes, because nothing impresses the Florida bar more than filing a complaint out of spite while being sued. Broadcasting your intent across streams named things like "What the Cricket Hails" and confusing "I lost in court" with "My opponent must be punished." It wasn't just unwise. It was textbook abusive process. Proudly live streamed to an audience of 47 sock accounts and one woman who thought she was attending a book club. And let's not forget the others, the backup fleas, the ones who chimed in to say, "This is what real accountability looks like." These are the same people who think hearsay is admissible if it's told to you in a DM. The same crew who believe that filing a complaint means someone's career is already over, as if the bar doesn't toss out frivolous vendettas on a daily like expired coupons at Publix. By the end of the stream, they were high-fiving each other's words like bombshell and karma, all while admitting they hadn't actually even read the complaint. Well, fuck, why would they?
Yeah.
Reading it would just confirm that it was either never filed or lifted directly from hallucinated claims of Lip's dismissed lawsuit, which, by the way, also made its debut in a cloud of smoke and promptly got vaporized. So there they sat, basking in the glow of a win that never happened, declaring victory in a war no one else recognized, celebrating the filings of a document no one can verify while completely ignoring the part where the bar doesn't issue verdicts on YouTube time slots. But that's always been the Flea brand. If you can't win in court, stream it into existence. Chapter 3.
Chapter 3. Bar None of It Matters. Or when the complaint hits the clerk's desk and immediately gets buried in a stack of real problems. In the imaginations of Fleesa and the Flea Hive, the bar complaint detonated like a procedural nuke. They pictured it. Alarm bells ringing, suits scrambling, Randy to spar before lunch. Or brunch, whatever. In their fantasy, the Florida bar was an emotional support tribunal, ready to leap into action based on anonymous streams and a handful of allegations yanked from a voluntarily dismissed lawsuit. A lawsuit so thin, it couldn't survive its own narrative structure. A lawsuit that was never meant to be proven, only posted. But here in the real world, the complaint, if it exists, was likely reviewed by a mildly annoyed staff attorney named Tina, who read it between two legitimate grievances, rolled her eyes, and dropped it into the retaliatory trash fire file alongside such classics as, "I lost the motion and now my feelings are hurt.
My neighbor is a witch and possibly a lawyer.
And he made fun of me on YouTube." The bar, oh bless them, has seen it all before, and they know the difference between misconduct and butthurt cosplay dressed in Times New Roman. Meanwhile, Fleesa kept the campaign alive. Imagine that thing jumping on you and giving you CPR. Even as the initial high faded and no lightning bolt struck Randy from the clouds, she pushed the narrative like a hostage reading cue cards under a ring light.
Just because they haven't seen the outcome doesn't mean it's not happening.
She wheezed in a follow-up stream between puffs and half-chewed cookies.
Well, sometimes they don't respond, 'cause it's ongoing, confidential, you know.
Why am I sounding Australian now? I can't do that voice anymore. You know, it's official bar stuff. My New York turns to Australian. That's fucked up. Sure, that's it. I can't control the voices in my head sometimes. Totally not because it was tossed in under 5 minutes as baseless and possibly unhinged. No. Definitely a secret tribunal that only communicates through DMs and garage streams. Meanwhile, Lipschitz has transitioned to her next phase, telling everyone that filing the complaint was a sacred act of protection, and that this was bigger than the case. She was now whispering about constitutional violations and hinting that the federal government might get involved right after she figured out how to redact PDFs correctly. Still hiding behind proxies. But still, weaponizing implications while avoiding litigation. She doesn't really need to speak. She's built an entire ecosystem of enablers, willing to mosquito her into martyrdom.
Misquote.
Wow, mosquito her. What the fuck was that? Misquote her into martyrdom. Mosquitoed? Well, they are a bunch of little bloodsuckers. They are a bunch of little bloodsuckers, so that doesn't make sense. All right, misquote her into martyrdom. See, this is why when I read my stories, I have to do so many damn takes. Let them, yeah. Let them, yeah. All the cold reads aren't glorious. Let them stream the spin while she plays the wounded sage in private. The Fleesa remain convinced this is a long game. They say, "You'll get his." They nod solemnly when Fleesa says, "Justice takes time," ignoring that it's not just justice they're waiting on. It's a storyline with no third act. But here's the truth they won't say out loud. This complaint wasn't a legal strategy. It was a consolation prize for losing the lawsuit. It wasn't meant to succeed. It was meant to trend. To control a narrative they no longer had the facts to win in court. To send a message. If we can't beat you legally, we'll bury you ethically, or I'll just sit on you in public. And while the bar quietly forgets their tantrum, their tantrum ever hit the box, the court watches and waits. Because what the fleas forget is that when you make your defense public, you make it admissible. And when you scream retaliation into a microphone, you're not just venting, you're documenting motive. Back on the flea stream, things got quieter. The bar complaint was supposed to end everything, and it hadn't even triggered a response. Fleesa coughed into the mic and changed the subject. The chat went dead. And somewhere in Florida, the bar investigator clicked closed, no probable cause, and wondered why the lunatics always email at 2:47 a.m. So now we wait, because maybe Fleesa has one more stream in her. Maybe Michael has one more filing up his sleeve. Maybe Lips, boxed in, out of options, tries again. New venue, new excuse, new lie. Or maybe, just maybe, they all realize the one thing they feared most. No one believes them anymore. Not the bar, not the court, not even their own chat. But if they don't come back, if they try another round, another filing, another anonymous crusade, well, we'll be there, with loofahs in hand, receipts and folders, and snacks of our own. To be continued? We'll have to wait
Maybe.
and see.